Manifesting the life you want starts now. And right now we're really focusing on manifesting and creating the life, the desires that you really want. And I've always followed a couple different laws, and it's been mixed with some biblical stuff, but particular these laws, and I've said it in a previous video, the law of attraction and then the law of assumption. And those have been huge in everything that I've done, even in my goal settings and planning, preparing. It's been huge. So first, the law of attraction. We all know the law of attraction. We attract what we think about all the time. What are you constantly thinking about yourself? How do you feel about yourself? What do you feel you deserve? And based off what you feel you deserve, how are you responding to life and situations? What are you consistently telling yourself? The thoughts that we constantly are telling ourselves creates the reality that we see on the inside, on the outside. And that part is so critical, because when things happen, and in life, things will happen. Things will happen. Things will not always go our way. And what are we telling ourselves? Oh, this is just wasn't for me. Life is just not, it just doesn't work out in my favor. Those thoughts starts to become continually affirmations, and then that's what we believe. I'm always struggling. I'm never going to get out of debt. You know, I'm always going to be out of shape. Whatever those thoughts that you're telling yourself, especially when things don't go your way, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy within yourself. So you have to first start understanding your patterns. Things don't go right. What are you saying? Think about it. Write that down. How do you make that shift? How do you make that transition? And it starts with daily practice. And you'll hear that all the time, but it starts with that. It starts with understanding, okay, when I get mad, I'll say this. Write that down. What should be my new counter? What should I say now? You have to get into a system that you're building your own affirmations, and they're counters, because you're always fighting with someone, and that's the person who's inside, and you're always fighting that. And then we always talk in Bible and different spiritual, where it's like it's the devil. And I'm like, look, so that's a good outlet. The devil's not, he's not omnipresent. He can't be everywhere at all times, so he can't be enticing you with something, enticing someone. So a lot of times we are putting ourselves into these situations. And one of our clothing lines, we really focus on self-love and loving yourself. And part of that self-love and self-care is what are you telling yourself constantly over and over, because that's what you're going to attract. And then you start seeing, like, how is this person in this relationship? They just got out that relationship, and then they went into another relationship, and it's almost the exact same thing, because you attract what you attract. So affirmation has been huge of how I've done. And there's times where I'm just like, I just want to be so negative and say something, but I gotta zip it up. You gotta just hush it up. And that requires patience, that requires discipline, and discipline is huge. Right now we're going to talk about the law of assumption. And the law of assumption, huge. That is saying that you're believing that you already have, like, you actually see it. It's this new job. You see the job. You see yourself walking in. You see yourself getting new clothes. You see yourself at that new desk. The law of assumption is huge. Moving into this new house. But the part about the law of assumption that you have to understand is you have to be practical to an extent and build momentum. So what I mean by that is, a lot of times you have goals. You need to set goals. So set that high goal, but set smaller goals so that you're building momentum to reach that higher goal. We may set a high goal. I want to be a millionaire. I want this big house, but we're struggling to pay the 9 to 5. Well, we're struggling to pay our bills. We're struggling at a 9 to 5. We're struggling, just to put gas in our car. So you have to start building the momentum so it becomes realistic. And a lot of times people don't say that, but there are times where you'll see people, okay, they went from 0 to 100 very fast. But most people, that's not going to be the case. So you have to understand this. With anything you're doing, you have to build momentum. Sports, you just don't go out there and you just become this rare talent that you can just do everything. You can dribble, you can shoot, you can dunk. You can run a 440 in the speed, and you can catch, you can throw. That's not the case. Everything is goals built on top of each other, and it builds momentum. So you have to look at whatever you're going through the same process. So that law of assumption is critical, but let's narrow it down a little bit and say, if you're struggling, right? You're struggling right now, whether it's financially, it's health, it's mental. You have to not look at just, I want to fully get to the top. I want to get to the mountaintop. Just see how you can start getting some small steps of progress. Okay, I set this goal. Right now, I just don't want to have to struggle this month paying my bills. So putting that out there, okay, now let's start creating this law of assumption and then say, okay, I see myself bills fully paid. See myself paying them out, checks, cards, all that is being done. I don't have no stress about my bills. Get into that place where it feels real. You have that exhale, like all the feelings of that assumption that it's actually happening. It goes into where you talk about biblically where they say faith without works is dead. We always hear the faith, but that works is critical. And a lot of times we're waiting for these miracles to happen, but in order for a miracle or anything to happen, you got to put the work in, and you got to do the max. You got to do everything that you can. So do what you can first to the max, and then allow God and the universe and everything else to bring in everything else that you need to fulfill those assumptions, those goals, those desires. So the disciplines, money management, budgeting, watching what you eat, a lot of this stuff it's just practice, and you have to do it whether you want to or not. That's the part of being disciplined. So I want you to stay encouraged, but understand when we're going in and we're starting to talk more about, building this life that we want, this business that we want that's thriving, creating that law of assumption, really seeing yourself there is critical to what we're doing. So follow us and stay tuned as we continue to build upon this law of assumption, these laws of affirmation, but also understand that faith without works is dead.